I'm starborn. Remember, to be a star, you have to shine your own light, follow your own path, and not be afraid of the darkness, because that's when stars shine brightest. In fact, if you've been looking at our website, starborninstitute.org, you'd already know that the title of tonight's show is Revisions. And you may have to make a few revisions this week. And even if you don't have any plans to do that, it could be that you have to do a little extra tweaking somewhere in your life, because others could have been making some revisions or some changes, and you may have to respond to what they've been doing. And so that's why I think we're going to go through revisions. But the planets are also aiding us in that, and that is because there are 5 retrograde planets in the heavens right now, and they are all on one side of your chart. And they are in succession throughout one side or one half of your chart. So not everything in your life is going to just forge ahead the way it could last week. You've really got to sort of pay attention to these 5 retrograde planets and what they mean, because soon there will be a 6th planet, and that is Mercury, which will go retrograde this month as well. So we actually end the month of September with 6 retrograde planets. So this may not be the last time we're talking about revisions. But in the end, because through no fault of your own, revisions have to be made. In other words, other people make changes and you sort of have to react to them in one way or another. You may be experiencing some delays this week, or you could be going through some momentary disappointments. And that is because Pluto is retrograde in Capricorn, meaning there have to be more changes at the top, not just in personnel, but in policies of large corporations and government agencies. I mean, there's a few things that are not making sense these days, and we're sort of hoping they get that straightened out. And then Jupiter and Saturn are in Aquarius, the sign of the future. They're wonderful planets. They sort of do things in a little different way. Jupiter represents opportunities and expansions, and it is retrograde, which means that some great opportunity that you may have been thinking about for a long time could present itself in some way now. And, you know, in other words, something you've been waiting for a long time actually could come true now, which would be nice. And then Saturn retrograde in the sign of the future, and also this Aquarius is the sign where the United States moon is in our nation's chart. And so Saturn can put a damper on things, because it's called the taskmaster. It's a planet that wants you to do everything right, and if you don't, you have to start all over again. So that would require revisions, wouldn't it? And also, it simply means that you have to keep trying to be better and better and better and better, because that's how people accrue a very good track record, and so people can trust them. Saturn is a planet of trust, but you do earn it the hard way. But that's okay. It's in the sign of the future, which means, you know, you could be building your future or rebuilding it right now, and that would be all right. But it would require a little tweaking or some revisions, because these planets are retrograde. And then Neptune is retrograde in Pisces. And Neptune is a planet that is sort of nebulous. It rules Pisces, which rules things that are hidden behind the scenes. So it can rule omissions and deceptions and outright lies. Or it could rule covert activities behind the scenes. It also rules illusion, so it rules photography. And it's a very artistic sign, but because it's a water sign, it is a healing sign. And Pisces is known for being very charitable. But Pisces rules areas of confinement, such as hospitals and prisons and sanitariums. But those are places that some people can heal up and revise their life too when they are dismissed in one way or another. And then Uranus is retrograded Taurus. And it is a planet of sudden volatile change. It rules Aquarius, and so it's squaring the sign it rules. And Uranus is a malefic planet because it's so unexpected. It rules surprise. But sometimes it can be very jarring surprise, particularly when it's in Taurus, because it simply means that the value of your investments can wildly fluctuate, and that may be happening now. And so remember, all these retrograde planets are in only one half of your chart, but they're having a little bit of a dampening effect on the other half of your chart. However, that's why I think you're going to experience this week, through no fault of your own, a reaction to changes other people want to make. And you don't have to make a change just because somebody else does, but you may want to consider that, or how you can react to something in a way that benefits you. And so even if you go through some disappointment or delay, it could be a little bit more momentary than you realize, because there are compensations. You know, there are a lot of other planets that are direct. And so you can go forward in a lot of different ways right now. It's just, I think you're going to, if you expect that you have to make some revisions this week, you might be better prepared to do it. And you could be sort of considering those now if you want to. But the compensations are there for you, whether you make the revision or not. And that is because there are 4 planets that are all in a grand trine in the Earth signs. And the Earth, there's been a grand trine in the Earth signs for a while now. And so there are very practical financial and career and health considerations that can move right along. And that is because the Sun and Mars are in Virgo, and that rules our health and our traditional 6th house of work and your job. And Virgo rules analysis, which is you use in good problem solving, and it rules banking. It rules occupations that are of service to others. And the timing is pretty good on that because it rules teaching, and this is when school is starting. But it also rules nursing, and it rules being a social worker or even a community volunteer that's just trying to help out. And it rules firemen and policemen, people that serve the public or people that serve a lot of other people. And Virgos are known for doing their duty. Actually, all the earth signs are very good at that, doing their duty. They may not always like it, but they do it. And so they follow through. And particularly Virgo, because Virgo rules finishing. It is ruled by the number 9, which is the highest of all the single digits, and that's why it finishes things, no matter what. So the Sun and Mars in Virgo are trining Uranus in Taurus, so that Uranus might be volatile, but it's got some pretty good backup. You know, it's got the facts and details behind it. And then those 3 planets are also trining Pluto in Capricorn. Well, Uranus and Pluto are retrograde. And remember, the retrograde planets are more or less leading us to making some kind of revision this week. It could be more than one, but some kind of revision based, through no fault of your own, on something else that occurs in the world, or something that somebody else does. And so it simply means that we're going to have to go back and re-examine some things that we thought were sort of moving along just fine. Well, they're not. And so we're going to have to make changes at the top, or we're going to have to change policies. Because the world is a volatile place, but particularly our money is the world economy. You know, a lot of people just think from paycheck to paycheck. That's fine. That means they've got a job. That's good. But the whole world is wondering what's going on, particularly financially, due to upsetting conditions that can cause delays and momentary disappointments. So you can see, even at a world level, that we've got to think carefully about amending some things or revising some things in the hope that things will get better. And the 4 planets in the earth signs can help you make practical decisions about your job and your health, about your investments, or about your career and your long-term security. So, and that's all favorable. So that's what I mean by, if you have to make revisions somewhere else, there's still compensation for that, which is good. Then there are another 4 planets that are all trining each other. And that can help you out too, because they're in the creative, conceptual air signs. And that is because Mercury has now moved out of Virgo and it is in Libra. Well, it's joining Venus in Libra. And Venus rules Libra. It's very strong there. And you know, Mercury is the planet of communication and thought. So you could be thinking of who you really care about or whoever you love. And I would think that, you know, that Mercury and Venus close together in Libra, that could indicate poetry. That could indicate something really nice. Nice words that are being said, or nice partnerships, or good legal matters that can work out in an amicable way. Even if they weren't too agreeable before, they could work out better now. So that's good. And they are trining 2 other planets in Aquarius, that Jupiter and Saturn in Aquarius, which rules the future. So even if they're retrograde and there can be a little bit of delay or momentary disappointment about your future plans, still, these 4 planets trining each other are wonderful, and all 4 of them are trining the lucky north node of the moon in Gemini. So I would say the compensation that can come out of this wonderful trine in air signs is that at the very least you could present yourself very well to others, and you could certainly make a new friend who may turn out to be a romantic friend or somebody that you would really enjoy being around or doing a project with, you know, working together, something like that. That could work out really well right now. In fact, that is so well aspected, I would be surprised if people didn't make new friends right now, because they're out there. And you should be too. And then the third thing that is a little more difficult to see, but also represents a compensation for all these retrograde planets, is that there are fewer planets in the fixed signs than there have been all summer. You know, there's less there to cause tension, so there can be less pressure now. It hasn't all gone away, but there's less of it. And that's because there's only 3 planets in fixed signs right now. So we're not at this high-pitched level of trouble that we may have been in before. And it doesn't mean that we're out of the trouble, but it's becoming manageable in one way or another. And just as your problems, you could be sort of like climbing a hill of a lot of problems, and maybe you're sort of reaching the top of that and going down the other side, and there might be fewer problems now. And that would be pretty nice for you. And that's because there's only 3 planets left in the fixed signs. They're just squaring each other. There's no opposition going on. But that Uranus in Taurus, which is a malefic planet, and will remain in Taurus until 2025, is squaring Saturn and Jupiter in Aquarius. Jupiter will leave the square because it will go into Pisces by the end of the year. It'll be in Pisces in 2022. And Saturn will leave that square in about 2 years. It will move off. It will actually go into Pisces then too. So that square will break up. But for now, Saturn is a malefic planet, and so is Uranus. And the sad part about this is that Uranus rules Aquarius, and it will be in perpetual square to the sign it rules until 2025. Well, Uranus rules the future, and Taurus rules money. And we are not too sure if those things are actually going to come together too well between now and 2025. And it may be due to circumstances beyond our control in one way or another. So I'm not saying that something terribly bad is going to happen, but when more planets come into the fixed signs, which are not there now, there's only 3 of them, but when more planets come into the fixed signs in November, we're going to be in a little bit of trouble again. It seems to me that that would be a time, late October and going into November, when if there was going to be a market crash, it will be right about then. And so there will be some sort of financial restriction. And let's hope I'm wrong. But there will be some sort of financial problem then. And that too is why you should take advantage of these grand trines in the earth signs and the air signs. And, be creative in your thinking and also practical in your money management. Because you could be successful in those areas. That's where you can get the compensation. But I don't think we can get around the fact that with half of all the planets, 5 of them in one half of your chart, I don't see how you can get away without having to make some revision this week. And so it could be just a change in plans or a change in schedule. It might be a change in your budget, but I don't think it's the budget that's really in trouble at the moment. It would be something that is just delayed, and it may be due to what someone else or some other condition has caused, and that you have to react to it. Okay, what does this mean to all 12 of the sun signs? Ooh, Aries. For you, it simply means that if you're thinking very quietly of maybe making a business move of some sort, a career move, I would say that's very wise of you, Aries. And the reason why is that Pluto in Capricorn has been squaring your sun for a long time, all this year, and it's going to continue to do that. In fact, it will remain in Capricorn until 2025. So it will be squaring your sun the whole time. And now, Mercury and Venus in Libra are opposing your sun. So this maybe is going to be a better time for someone else than it is for you, Aries, because there isn't a lot of support in the fire signs. And so I think that this is a time with these 2 good planets, Mercury and Venus in Libra, opposing your sun, that someone else can have some very good news, maybe about their love life, or else they can have some very good news about partnership effort. It may be one that's in the future. It may be one that everybody's just sort of thinking about right now, but it can be very good news. It would not benefit you, though, Aries. And so it's going to benefit somebody, but it won't be you. And so there is the possibility that you might lose a partner now. And I don't mean lose them through anything drastic. Actually, you could lose a partner because they have good news. And, it could be the kind of good news that sort of changes their life or changes their lifestyle, and they're going to move on. But that would leave you a little bit more alone. And so if you wanted to quietly just think of, what else you'd like to do, because as we go into the fall, we will have to be making revisions because so many planets are retrograde. Well, all 5 of them are surrounding your sun sign, Aries. So Uranus is in front of your sun sign, and then the others are behind your sun sign. You know, Pluto in Capricorn, Jupiter and Saturn in Aquarius, and Neptune in Pisces. So all around you, what I'm saying, Aries, is that all around you, somewhat in your more immediate vicinity, there are changes going on. And other people are making them. And I would say that you might look around and see a lot of people making revisions. And that will cause you to have to make some revisions. Remember, I said it could be through no fault of your own. And that could lead to some sort of delay or momentary disappointment. But there can still be compensation, Aries. It's just that it does not look like you're going to have your own way right now. But it isn't, I don't think it's a question of that kind of power trip. I think it's that if you were happy for other people that are in a good spot right now, that would be quite generous of you, and they would like you for that, for wishing them well. So I hope that you do that, because in the meantime, very quietly, you might want to think about some revisions that are appealing to you too. Because there is a solar eclipse coming up in Sagittarius in December, and it trines your sun. And that is when you should really make a move of some kind. You could do it before December, but it's very well aspected then. So you could think about it. Okay, what does it mean to a Taurus? Taurus. Remember I said that there have been planets in a grand trine in Earth signs for a while now. And so, you know, people are getting a little more practical about their jobs and their bills and money in general and their investments and the somewhat chaotic conditions throughout the world that can affect our finances, particularly our investments. And so, through no fault of your own, Taurus, you may have to make some adjustments because Uranus is retrograde in your sign. And the reason you might want to make some revisions or adjustments financially is because of the somewhat chaotic or volatile financial landscape right now. And this could be, if you don't think it's in your job, or it's not in your company, or you're thinking that it's not in your area, it sure could be in other areas in the world that affect your job and your company. And so if I were you, I'd scale back a little bit, Taurus, on your financial investments, or lock them down in something that may be lower paying but goes a lot longer, so that you're kind of stretching your money out over time, at least some of it. And it's like, you know, wouldn't be a bad idea for you to build a little extra nest egg somewhere right now, Taurus, and keep it for the rest of the year. And if you don't have it earmarked for anything, that's just fine. You can have it earmarked for safety. Just keep it safe until the rest of the world calms down a little bit. Then you can decide what to do with it. So if you make a revision, good luck on that. I think you'll be successful if you make some sort of revision now, particularly in your investments. Okay, what does it mean to a Gemini? Gemini. This is a time when you're going to get some good news, Gemini. And the reason why is that Mercury is the planet of news. It's the planet of communication. Well, it's in Libra along with Venus, and they are both trining your sun, where you have the lucky north node of the moon. And Jupiter and Saturn in Aquarius are also trining your sun and the north node of the moon. But, you know, good news is Mercury and Venus, you know, together in the sign that Venus rules. What kind of good news could it be? Well, there could be good legal news, for one thing, because Libra rules lawsuits, and it also rules the law. And it could pertain to news that has to do with a prospective partnership. And now, it might be with people you've already worked with, but it could be with somebody completely new. And it can be with the idea of just working more in tandem with others. You know, your sign rules two of everything. It rules the twins. And often a Gemini is very comfortable doing two things almost at the same time. I mean, not exactly, but you can be involved in two different things at the same time. And you like that. You like that change up and that versatility. So that's great. But you may meet somebody else who is so pleasing in their manner and has such a good, peaceful attitude and can be very good company that you may decide to take them on as a partner in one way or another, or join them. And that is going to work out real well for you, Gemini. And when the two planets in Aquarius, which are also trining your sun, eventually go direct, that is going to sort of cement the whole thing. So you can go from forming a new partnership or meeting somebody really nice that you should be involved with in your life, whether it's on your job or in a class or as a more serious romantic relationship. I would keep that person in my life if I were you, Gemini. And then as the planets in Aquarius go direct and trine your sun, it can be rewarding for you, or compensation, as I've said, because something that you may have wanted for a long time can finally come about, or would do that very soon. They would do it coming up. You know, I don't think it would be later than October. I mean, it's going to come up in the next month or so. And it's going to be real nice for you, Gemini. So get out and meet these nice people. They like you. And you could use some very nice people in your life, Gemini. That would be a good move for you to take on partners. Okay, what does it mean to a Cancer? Well, Cancer, this is a time when people can be subject to revisions even if they don't do anything. Okay, so what if you're happily at home, Cancer, and you haven't done anything at all, but your schedule or your routine or your neighborhood or some activity that you're involved with could get rescheduled due to conditions beyond your control or situations beyond your control. And that may or may not open up an opportunity for you. Who knows? What all 5 of these retrograde planets mean, and 6 coming up, because Mercury's going to go retrograde this month, is that we've got to prepare ourselves for making adjustments, more or less depending on what other people do. It's not that each one of us isn't pretty sure of what we want to do. Most people know what they want to do, but it's not going to be a straight shot path to it unless we make some revisions, because sometimes you're going to want to go around somebody, Cancer, maybe sort of avoid them and go around a situation and be very tactful. Well, that would be good. Or sometime you could just want to find out what's really happening behind the scenes. And Neptune in Pisces is trining your sun. And I would say you may want to make inquiries. And I would say you need to be extremely discreet about that, because the people that are having a spotlight shine on them now, and that spotlight would be focused by people that are looking for answers. There's a sort of element of danger about all that. I mean, what if you sort of look under the rug and you find something really awful? Well, what would you do with it, Cancer? In other words, you should try not to take sides with anybody's sad tale of woe, no matter what. And on top of that, maybe this is not the time for you to jump into anything without making some revisions of your own. So here's an element of delay that could reach you. Pluto has been in Capricorn opposing your sun sign all year, and it's going to continue to do that until 2025. And it's retrograde. And it's one of the many planets that are retrograde right now, which means, we got to go over and redo things. Well, that particular planet in Capricorn indicates that there have to be changes at the top in management in large corporations or government agencies. And that planet opposes your sun. So you may not have been pleased with the management that has been at the top. And you may want to jump in and do something about it. And all I'm saying is, don't do that. Not right now. Because there isn't enough support in the water signs to back you up at the moment. But there will be by the end of October and going into November. So you just still need to sit on the sidelines a little bit. However, if there was a change in management or in policies, that could open up a new door for you. That's what the show's about. If there is a change somewhere else in, say, your life, Cancer, and it is not due to anything you did, but finally something gets changed, then that you'll have to revise your schedule, or you'd have to revise your plans, because something is changed, and now maybe you can get some compensation or take advantage of that change by making a revision. So I know I'm talking about a lot of maybes, but it could happen. These 5 planets that are retrograde will sort of, in a little bit of a way, upset the apple cart of a lot of people, because there's a lot of planets that are retrograde. And as long as we react in a thoughtful manner, there can be compensations that might work out pretty well for us. And that's what could happen to you, Cancer. I just wouldn't jump in and be the problem solver. I would wait till the problem gets solved, and that will have then a positive effect on any revision or change that you want to make. Okay, what does it mean to a Leo? Leo. This is a time when you may want to rest, Leo. And the reason why is, remember I said that there are different kinds of compensation. Even if we have to make revisions and experience delay or momentary disappointment, there could be compensations for that, from the trine in the earth signs and another trine in the air signs. But there's a third reason why we can make some progress too. And that's the reason why you may want to get some rest now, Leo. And that is because there aren't as many planets in the fixed signs. And yours is a fixed sign. And you had Mars there in June and July. That was tough. And okay, so you got through that. And now the biggest problem a lot of people have is just all these retrograde planets. I mean, half of all the planets in the universe, in the heavens, are not going forward. And we've got to adjust to that a little bit. But there can be compensations. I think because there's only 3 planets in fixed signs right now, and none of them are in your sign, Leo, thank heavens, it simply means you can settle down right now. However, Uranus in Taurus is squaring your sun, and Saturn and Jupiter in Aquarius are opposing your sun sign, which can lead to delay in your future plans. Or you may have been thinking that there was a lot of opportunity out there in your future plans, but there may not be quite as much as you think, because both of these planets are retrograde. Still, there's nothing in your sun sign, Leo. And there's not a lot of support in the fire signs. So why don't you take a vacation? Why don't you relax? The weather may even cooperate. Perhaps we can get these wildfires down, or the bad storms abated, and people can live a more or less normal life. So I'm not saying that you've got a lot of backup right now, because you don't. But I am saying that if you experience disappointment or momentary delay of some sort, there will be compensation somewhere. Venus and Mercury in Libra sextile your sun, which is nice. It means there are nice people around. You may have to reach out a little further to find them than you're used to, but they are around. So I wish you luck, and I hope you get some rest this week, because it'll make a new person out of you. So good luck. Okay, what does it mean to a Virgo? Virgo. This is a time when you're still strong, Virgo. And that is because it's not that you're not always strong. You're always strong intellectually and mentally. Yours is a mental sign ruled by Mercury. And it rules analysis. It rules taking apart a big problem and dividing it into smaller problems that you can fix a little bit more easily until the whole thing is done. Well, you're an expert at that, Virgo. And the Sun and Mars are in your sign right now, and they are part of a grand trine in the Earth signs. And that simply means that you can make headway and do some good problem solving about financial investments. You can improve your health, even if it's only a little bit through better diet and nutrition. You can do that, which would be great for you. And also, you can improve your long-term career prospects right now. It might be that something that you're doing on your job can be sort of winding down or winding up a little bit. Or you've got it a little bit more under control than you had before. And so you could be reaching a state of summation on that. In other words, if it was a big project, oh, okay, maybe you're getting done with that now. Or if you were on a sort of a giant learning curve because you had to do a whole bunch of new things at once, okay, maybe you've got that sorted out too, and you feel better about that. But certainly you're going to be able to find compensations for any kind of revisions that you have to make right now. And with Mercury, your own ruler, right ahead of your sun sign, with Venus in Libra, you can be thinking about partnership, or there can be a very good terms on a legal contract, or there can be people who want to cooperate with you now because something might have changed in their situation, and that means you would have to revise your plans as well, but it could be mutually beneficial to do that. So I would say there's opportunity around right now, Virgo. And I also think you're almost getting ready to, look out and find another problem to solve. You're so good at it. And there may be another one coming up. And it's not to you, but it's a kind of problem that would get solved because of your unique abilities. So that's why someone may either assign you that problem, or you could see it and offer your assistance, which would be great. Okay, what does it mean to a Libra? Libra. Ooh, your life could be hearts and flowers right now, Libra. And the reason why is that, it could take on a little state of poetry or beauty. And if you are at all artistic, which you probably are since art is ruled by your sign, you may want to create something. And you may want to paint something or photograph something or write something, and you could do it. It would be particularly beneficial, say, if you painted or took a picture of something and wrote a caption for it. Okay, why is that? Because Venus is in your sign and it rules art, but Mercury is in your sign as well. And that rules communication and writing. And so, if you can put the thoughts and the images together, that's really nice, Libra. And this is a wonderful time for that. It could have a very beneficial effect on your future. You may just decide you want to go back to school and take up painting or something. It would work out really well. But add the words. Put the words behind it too. because that's two ways of communicating, one through sight and one through the spoken or written word. And that would be very good, Libra. That would be sort of a double way to reach your audience, which would be nice. And that could change your future eventually. And that's because Jupiter and Saturn in Aquarius are trining that Mercury and Venus in your sign. So you really can find all kinds of compensation right now in spite of any delays or momentary disappointments that you may have to endure due to revisions. Remember, revisions can be not because you did something, but because something else happened and you have to revise your plans. But you can do that successfully, Libra. And so try to be very open and expressive right now. People will love it. And it will be a nice release, a release of the beauty that is within you. Share it with somebody, Libra. It's really time you did that. Okay, what does it mean to a Scorpio? Well, Scorpio, this is a time when you too, just like Leo, might be able to take a time out and relax a little bit. And the reason why is there are only 3 planets in the fixed signs right now. Well, you haven't had a planet in your sign for a long time, but that's changing soon, later on this fall. But you have been really hammered and been put in competitive, stressful situations this year by the fact that there were malefic planets squaring and opposing your sun sign. Some of them very harshly at times, particularly this summer. Did that wear you out, Scorpio? Well, yeah. I mean, that could wear anybody out. But Scorpios met the challenge this year, and they paid their dues. And now, Scorpio, it's time to take a sigh of relief if you can. Take a vacation or just exhale because, yeah, you got through something. And more than one thing, actually. It has been what you might call a year of rough water for you. However, being the good sailor that you are, you have come out on top, Scorpio, even if you may not feel like that at the moment. By next year, you'll look back at this time and you'll see that you did come out on top. But you know, when you're fighting competition, or you're in a battle, or you're defending yourself against attack, it's a little hard to sit back and see the big picture because you're so involved. Well, now you can relax a little bit and you can begin a slow summation of different things that have happened, and you know, you may be able to start seeing them not as a big mountain of trouble, but as a pathway to something higher and better. And you sort of had to overcome that mountain of trouble before you could get on this higher road, which you are on now. I would say you're at the beginning of it. And you're really going to make a lot of progress later on this year. So this is a time when you can just sit back and sort of think of what you like about where you are. Because there's more good there than you realize. You just haven't had a chance to sit down and say, oh, gee, this is okay. And think about why it's okay. But you could do that, Scorpio, now, because one of the compensations, even during this time of a lot of retrograde planets, so that we have to revise some of our plans, one of those compensations is that there is a lot fewer planets in fixed signs. So Uranus and Taurus is still opposing your sun sign. Okay, that's going to go on until 2025. So you have to be cautious in your investments. And Jupiter and Saturn in Aquarius are squaring your sun right now, but they are both retrograde. They are both being trined beautifully too. I mean, they're not out to cause a lot of trouble. They're out to sort of benefit in any way. So I think the pressure is off you, and I think you should start understanding that this high mountain you had to get over, mountain of trouble that you had to get over this year, is, you know, you're on the downward slope. You passed the height, and you can be on your way to better things and to a higher path of self-understanding and compassion, even for yourself, for what you've been through. And so take a breather, Scorpio. You've earned it. And relax. You've done well. Okay, what does it mean to a Sagittarian? Well, Sagittarius, this is a time when everybody has to get used to the fact that there's just too many retrograde planets, and so we're all going to be affected by the fact that some things have to be done over, and this time done right. And that would be a good idea, wouldn't it, Sagittarius? The problem is that the planets are divided. All 5 of the retrograde planets are in one half of a person's chart, and then there are active planets on the other side of the chart. Well, Sagittarius, this idea of having to make revisions due not to anything you did, but to changes beyond your control, or due to the changes other people make that you have to respond to, which is why revisions will be required. All of that is sort of coming up for you, Sagittarius. It's not behind you. It's in front of you. Half the planets in the heavens are all retrograde, and they are right in front of your sign. I mean, they're different signs, but successfully. I mean, they just keep going. So this idea of having to sort of go back and redo things, or revise your plans in response to changes other people made, is all in front of you, Sagittarius. So you have a fine mind. You're a smart person. But, I mean, you will have to make revisions. I'm not so sure that any of them have anything to do with your own goals or your own actions. I don't think you're actually responsible yourself for any of the revisions you're going to have to make. They will all be due to changes that other people have made, or changes in the financial situation, or changes in market conditions. Something like that. Or changes in additional information that is coming out now that had been hidden for a long time. That's going to cause a lot of change when that happens. So all of these retrograde planets are right ahead of your sun sign, Sagittarius. Can you escape that effect? No. In fact, you have to probably spend the rest of the year getting through all the changes that other people are making. I can only suggest one thing, and it is that somehow you develop a level of tolerance that you have never had before, because you've never needed to have that much tolerance. But everybody's going to need a lot more tolerance for the rest of the year. Now, your sign rules foreign countries, and long-distance travel, and higher education, and the courts. And so to be at your best, you have to respond at your highest level, particularly in those areas. So if there's changes around, all I'm saying is, you really are an intelligent person, but you are going to need an overabundance of tolerance to get through the rest of the year. Now, this is not all bad news. Remember, I told you there's compensations for that. It's just when I'm talking about delays or momentary disappointments, for you, Sagittarius, more delays And they won't all be momentary disappointments. You might have these disappointments for a while. But with increased tolerance, you will not be letting any of that affect your fine mind or your aspirations. It's just that I would say for you, the road is going to get a little bumpy. None of which you cause. But, you know, there's just big changes around, and you and me and everybody will have to make revisions due to changes that are beyond our control. It's just a little sad that all of these retrograde planets are right ahead of your sign. But don't worry about that. There's still a solar eclipse in December in your sign that it's just gonna see you flying high, Sagittarius. It is a real winner. Keep that in mind between now and December. That may develop your tolerance. So do your best. And you know, when you have problems around you, particularly ones you didn't cause, and you still have to live with them, it makes you really strong on the inside. It doesn't weaken you. It makes you stronger. So remember, you're going to be real strong by December. Maybe you'd have to be for the new path that you are going on next year. And that will be good. Okay, what does it mean to a Capricorn? Capricorn. This is a time, remember, when I said even with revisions, there are compensations. And that is because, for one thing, there's this grand trine in earth signs, which really impacts you, Capricorn, because the Sun and Mars in Virgo are trining your sign where Pluto is, and Uranus in Taurus is also trining your sign. Ooh, that's just great. That simply means that even though Uranus and Pluto in your sign are retrograde, it simply means that this is a time of revision, because there's too many retrograde planets. We got to respond to that a little bit by having to sort of make changes of our own. But I would say that the changes that you make, whatever they would be, whether they are in your health, the Sun and Mars in Virgo are trining your Sun, so you could decide to get serious about, you know, improving your health, and this is a wonderful time to do that. And also, you could decide that you want to redo the power structure within you. Capricorn rules administration. Okay, so Capricorns are absolutely excellent at making sure that things run right. And they don't often think of themselves as, you know, the kingpin or the head of something. But if they work long enough and hard enough, they have enough knowledge to do that to be the top, to be head of their own organization. And they know what they're getting into. And this could be sort of coming upon you now, Capricorn. And the idea of it, I'm not saying that you're going out and filing the papers to make yourself a CEO, but you could, because by the time that Pluto goes direct, you will have a different sense of your own power. These retrograde planets, they make us go back and think things over again. And Pluto's been retrograde in your chart for a long time. And so you would have been thinking over your role. Okay, but did it ever amount to anything? Well, yeah, for the future. But the thing is, a Capricorn who's very good at administrative work is always serving somebody else. Is always supporting another organization or another person or part of the staff. They don't sit there and think of themselves as the boss. So it would have taken you a very long time, particularly with Pluto retrograde in your sign, for you to get some idea of what your real power is now. And that's what you're getting. That's the compensation. Doesn't matter how many revisions you have to make, you are coming home to your own power. And I don't think that you have decided what to call it yet, but it's there. And I think that you are realizing it's time. It's time to do that. Capricorns live a long time, but they're not productive the whole time. They retire, they move on. And some of them, even in their hobbies, they work pretty hard at that because they like to. They like to achieve things. So I would say you could be getting ready with a few revisions to make yourself more powerful in your own eyes. And my only question is, what took you so long? You're fully capable. You can do it, Capricorn. And you don't need to apologize to anybody for anything. You pay, just like Scorpio, you paid your dues through many years of assisting others. Now you know all the steps. You know the routine. But now you're the one that has to be the boss. And I think you're going to be successful at that. Not until some of those planets go direct, but that's what happens in October. In October, of the 6 retrograde planets that we end September with, in October, 4 of them go direct. So I imagine that October is going to be a job where we pick up, our month where we pick up the pace. And so now is a good time for you to decide, okay, how am I going to go forward now? And be a little more serious about it. Okay, what does it mean to an Aquarian? Be a little more serious about it. Okay, what does it mean to an Aquarian? Aquarius. Remember that there are 3 really good reasons why we can be compensated, even though we're going to have to make revisions this week and perhaps experience some sort of disappointment or momentary delay on something. Well, that could happen. There's 2 retrograde planets in your sign. Certainly something has to be done over in your life, Aquarius. But I would say it is going to have a happy ending. And the reason why is that Jupiter and Saturn are retrograde in your sign, but they are being trined beautifully by Mercury and Venus in Libra. And that rules partnership and peace and compromise and diplomacy and art and beauty. And it rules the law and all legal contracts, which should be working out pretty well right now. So if there does have to be some sort of revision in a legal matter or in some sort of partnership deal, I think that even if there is a little disappointment or momentary delay, that the compensation for that will really be worth it. That there will be better understanding, there will be more facts presented, or there will be more talking things out in one way or another, and that could work out well for you. And so it is possible, Aquarius, that something that should have happened before now catches up to you. And if it doesn't catch up right now, it would perhaps do that next month, in October, when so many planets go direct. 4 of them will go direct. And it could just be something that you had your little heart set on, but it just didn't happen. And now, even with revisions and changes that other people make, I think you're going to get some good news, and that it will work out much better for you. And I don't know when the news is coming. It should be coming through a partner now, or it should be coming through some sort of legal paper, or it should be coming through a compromise that people make, or different terms on something. And so that's a nice compensation, even if you are a little disappointed or you have to go through a little bit of delay. So I think things are going to work out better. There are still 3 planets in fixed signs. 2 of them are in your sign. There's only 1 planet squaring your sign now. Isn't that wonderful? Uranus, which is a malefic planet, is in Taurus, and it is squaring Jupiter and Saturn in your sign. So the pressure is almost off you too, Aquarius. Not quite, but it's almost off you. And we have all been through a pretty tempestuous summer. And due to circumstances beyond our control, like wildfires or bad weather or just a whole lot of world conditions that we didn't have anything to do with. And so now, even if we have to make small revisions, if it helps our future, why shouldn't we do it? You know, it's not going to delay anything for very long if you just make a revision in your plans, Aquarius. It will still turn out all right. Like I said, the only time that you're going to be a little threatened by something is in November. But, you know, Jupiter is leaving your sign in December. And it is such a good planet that you need to look for opportunities to expand. I wouldn't wait a whole lot longer, Aquarius, because you're going to run out of time if you wait too long. So try to expand in one way or another. And it looks to me like you could do it through a pretty nice partner right now. So good luck. Okay, what does it mean to a Pisces? Pisces. This is a time when I think that, you know, you have to sort of be very patient, Pisces. And Pisces people can be patient. I mean, amazingly so. I mean, they can live through a lot of suffering even, a lot longer than a lot of other people can. I don't know how they exactly do it, but a Pisces in their highest form can be a little angel of mercy if they want to be. They have very sweet dispositions. The world sometimes takes advantage of that, which isn't good, but Pisces still has a very sweet disposition, and it's a healing sign. But right now, Neptune is in your sign. It is being opposed by the Sun and Mars in Mercury. And Mars is a planet of war and destruction and jealousy and greed and hate. And it's aimed right at this Neptune that's retrograde in your sign, Pisces. So if you have something to hide, somebody's sure going to want to find out about that, and they probably will. So that could necessitate a revision in your life. And also, if your sign is in the middle of a lot of these planets that are retrograde right now. Remember, they're only on 1/2 of everybody's chart. And there's that Neptune in Pisces. But these other planets are around your sign. And so I would say that you could either know, or you could be living with, or you could be working with other people that have to go through revisions or changes right now. And let's say that they may feel displaced in one way or another. You may feel displaced at your job. Or you could be feeling displaced in your neighborhood. And I think that there has to be some revision in your life, Pisces. And the motivation for that would be that as much as you can be a ministering angel to others, I would say this is a very important time for you to take care of yourself. And, you know, you don't have, everyone that's surrounding you is not your friend. And if they go through change, they may not care how that affects you. So you need to decide what you're going to do in your life. Or you need to decide how much you can take and what you just don't want to live with anymore. And you can do that, Pisces. This isn't necessarily a good time for you to make a bold move. But, you know, there can be peaceful resistance. You can say no to some things. There's nothing wrong with that. Some people don't they're not as bold as that. They don't just come up and say, no, I don't want that, or I don't want to do that. Instead, they invent excuses. Oh, I can't do that. I've got to go do this. And they sort of get out of it. So it doesn't matter how you do it, Pisces, but I would say you need to make some revisions in your life, and they should be ones that target you as being an angel of mercy for yourself. Treat yourself well, Pisces. You, in some area of your life, you are surrounded by other people that are not doing that for you. They're not treating you that well. And so, you know, if I were you, I'd move on. You can do it. It's just, this is a better time just for revisions. In other words, somebody who is, you know, making a big change might regret it, because they may look back and say, oh, I didn't have to do that. I could have made a smaller revision. I would take the small steps first, Pisces, and see how that feels before you decide on anything else. You're going to have a very good November. So I don't know what you're deciding on, but the timing of putting it through completely would work out quite well in November. So just think about that, okay? All right, thanks so much for tuning in. Remember, you can see the show and read our blog on our website, starborninstitute.org. Bye.